Welcome to Hypocrisy Part 2, the second of these hypocrisy little thoughts on a particular passage this time. I just think I want to take the most obvious one and probably most well-known one, which occurs twice in the Gospels, once in Matthew, once in Luke. I'm going to read just quickly the 3 verses from Matthew 7 about this. It says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." So there's a real comment about hypocrisy here that is brought out in Matthew's Gospel. And I just think of so many occasions in my life where I've pointed the finger when, in a way, I probably shouldn't even be judging the situation. Although that's a balancing act, I have to admit, and might be the theme of another podcast or whatever. We tend to do that, and maybe we should sometimes, where we really feel there's a point to be made about justice. And justice is another issue about which we need to comment on the hypocrisy of certain situations. But I'm just thinking about how I tend to judge people, criticise them, and then realise that actually there's a lot to be learnt, and I maybe need to look at myself first in how I'm commenting on that. I particularly point the finger so often at different politicians. When I was younger, I was more towards the right of politics. Now I'm very much to the left. But whichever stance you take, you maybe comment on people and say, "Oh, don't think much of that," without really knowing quite the background to the full situation, and realising, of course, in hindsight, as I analyse my own life, that there is something missing that I need to work out here about how I haven't got all the answers, I haven't read all the stuff, I will never know the full knowledge of things. We just have to acknowledge that we are weak in this and come to things with a real sense of humility. And so hypocrisy brings in the topic of humility, it brings in the topic of judgment and of justice, and maybe we need to be a bit less quick to look at other people, and maybe a lot more detail needs to be done about ourselves. There's a very well-known phrase in Christian circles: "Send revival, start with me." And in lots of ways, if something that's going to be revived, it needs to start with self. So I leave you with that thought today.